Welcome in. It is Big Ten Today. It is presented by Rally House on this Thursday. Thrilled to have you with us. Dave Revson and Jake Butt. We got Big Ten football tomorrow. The week has kind of flown by, and then you've got a big game in Eugene coming up on Saturday.
Bunch of reasons to be excited. A ton of great matchups this weekend. We talked about it on the Tuesday show. Very revealing weekend for a number of different reasons, and I am so excited. I played in great rivalries. I played in Michigan, Ohio State. I played in Michigan, Michigan State. Played in Michigan, Notre Dame. And now to get to call Oregon State, Oregon, it's just... Rivalries are what make college football special, so I can't wait to get out there to Eugene and call that game.
Oh, we will get a ton on that game as we continue on our show. We dive into our big story, which is presented by Rally House, the Big Ten slate for this week, courtesy of the Big Board. 5 conference games starting tomorrow night with Iowa and Rutgers. As we said, our game, Oregon, Oregon State, and Jake will be on the call for that one. We'll give you everything you need to know about that matchup. Michigan going to Nebraska, early defining game for both those programs. And how about Illinois and Indiana? 74th all-time meeting, just the second time ever that both will be ranked, and the first time in 75 years. Jake, it is just a massive game for two teams with playoff aspirations.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, it's the race to get 4 into the playoffs, right? And it's Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. I think everybody is just expecting that those are the 3 that are a lock or as close to a lock as possible. But the winner of this game between these 2 ranked teams is really going to be in the driver's seat as the next team in for that 4th spot in the playoffs. So there's a ton of reasons to be excited about this matchup. I think they're 2 complete teams too. On a national scale, I'm not sure fans of college football really understand how deep these rosters are. These are 2 good rosters. These are 2 good veteran quarterbacks, great head coaches, great coaching staffs in terms of play callers on both sides of the ball for both teams. It's just going to be just a fun matchup, Dave.
So what do you think sways the balance? What are the pressure points for each team?
So there's a few things here, and let's start with when Illinois has the football with Altmaier and the Illinois offensive line. And really, these past 2 years, when Illinois has struggled and when the Illinois offensive line has struggled, it's been when they're facing teams that bring exotic pressures. Think Duke this year with Manny Diaz, Penn State last year, Oregon, teams that have the ability to get after you with aggressive pressures. The good thing for Illinois is that's not really Indiana. They don't come at you with aggressive exotic pressures, but they have good pass rushers. So can the Illinois offensive line hold up? Can they establish the run? It's going to be really hard to run against this Indiana defense that's been one of the best run defenses since Cignetti got there last year. But it'll be a chess match, and then it comes down to situational football, 3rd down, 4th down. Can Altmaier make plays? Can he go to his key guy in Hank Beatty? And then for Barry Lenny Jr., what are his adjustments within the game facing Bryant Haynes' defense?
Yeah, I'm really interested in what you're talking about, that Illinois offensive line. I think if you were to go through kind of a checklist of both of these teams and where are areas of concern, to me, the Illinois offensive line is probably the biggest one that's shown up so far this year. You mentioned the Duke game, the first half of the Duke game. Now, give them a ton of credit because they adjusted wonderfully.
Yeah.
In the second half, they avoided sacks and they ran the football really well. But they've given up the most sacks in the Big Ten, 3rd most tackles for loss. Indiana has the most tackles for loss in the Big Ten. So it feels to me like if there's one issue, it's that. I think on the other side, Illinois has won so many close games, Jake. Like when they're in close games, they know we tend to come out on top of these, and we've got a quarterback who has come through in pressure situations time and again. Indiana just hasn't played close games in this latest iteration, right? I mean, they blew everyone out last year, and then a few close games that they played, frankly, they lost. So, or games that were, close kind of going down the stretch. So kind of where is that reserve for them in terms of saying, okay, we know that we can handle a pressure situation like this? I think Illinois' got a decided advantage there.
Yeah, I think the comfort comes from having great players, and the comfort comes from having a quarterback in Mendoza that Cignetti has been raving about since he knew he was going to join the Hoosiers. And you're talking about Mendoza, a guy that's being mocked in the first round of the NFL draft, if not a top 20 pick, if not a top 10 pick, if not higher. Well, this is going to be the real ultimate test. And numbers aren't everything. And I don't want to get too into the numbers, but there is some key numbers I wanted to pull up because PFF tracks these things. It's a small sample size through 3 games. Illinois' defense has a very distinct identity. It's been true with Aaron Henry. It's been true when Ryan Walters got there. This is a 5-man front that is an aggressive downhill defense. They are going to pressure you, and then they're going to play press man behind you. They are going to bring pressure and force you into throwing into tight windows. So here's the stats here for you, Dave. Illinois blitzes at the highest rate in the Power 4. Number 1 blitz rate among all Power 4 teams at 60%. Illinois also plays man coverage at the 6th highest rate in the FBS, over 50% man coverage. There's your identity. Now, Mendoza, let's look at his grades. There's 2 Mendozas, okay? Mendoza's PFF grade, when being blitzed versus not blitzed. When Mendoza has been blitzed, he has a 75 PFF grade. That is 46th among FBS quarterbacks. When he's not blitzed, though, he has a 92 grade, 2nd best among FBS quarterbacks. So when he's being pressured, he's middle of the pack this year. When he's not, he's the 2nd best quarterback in all of college football. Now let's talk about the man-zone battle here. When throwing into man coverage this year, Mendoza, a 53 grade, that's 144th among FBS quarterbacks. So you have to go into some backup situations. Very shocking numbers. But when he's facing zone, 94 PFF grade, which is 3rd in FBS. So it's a small sample size.
Yeah, it is small sample size. Right.
But you see a little bit of a trend, which is when Mendoza has time and he's throwing into zone coverage, he is going to pick you apart with his pure talent. Where he's struggled this year is when he's been pressured and having to throw into tight windows man coverage. That's going to be what is required of him this week because of what Illinois does defensively.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yes.
I mean, literally
shocking,
exactly
right?
what they do, their identity plays into the thing that he does the worst.
Right. It's
really,
crazy. The
really
good thing,
interesting. Great
Indiana's
stuff.
got a great offensive line, though. I mean, they do not allow sacks from Mendoza. They're averaging over 300 yards per game on the ground. The key, Dave, and then we can move on, I just think whichever team is able to consistently run the ball and establish the run, that's going to be a major, major key in this game.
The hype for that game's off the charts. The first matchup of AP top 20 teams in Bloomington since 1987.
It's a reason to be excited.
Crazy, crazy. They're excited in Lincoln as well. You got Michigan coming to town. I think much as that game's a measuring stick game, Indiana, Illinois, the same can be said in Nebraska, Michigan. You're trying to figure out where you sit in the pecking order. Both of these teams feel reasonably good about their starts. Obviously, Nebraska better than Michigan. The Wolverines had a much more challenging non-conference game going down to Norman. But how do you see this matchup?
Man, this is, first off, I just think about the emotional and mental opportunity for both teams, but especially Nebraska. This is the game of the season. If you can beat, Heinrich Harburg, their tight end, said, hey, when you get your schedule in the offseason and you see that block M on there, this is not me saying this because then I'd be biased, but this is what Harburg said. He said, when you see the block M, your juices get flowing a little bit because it is a big brand, and that's the opportunity playing in front of your home crowd against a ranked Michigan team. You win this game, and the conversation completely changes. It becomes Huskers' potential playoff team. That's the opportunity at hand. And then the fun matchup here is going to be, you got a 5-star sophomore quarterback in Dylan Raiola, who has clearly taken strides, especially with his play caller Dana Holgerson, against Wink Martindale's defense. An aggressive defense that is going to get after you and takes the ball away. Dylan Raiola does not give the ball away. Something has to give here. On the flip side, it's Bryce Underwood, the 5-star freshman, against a 3-3-5 Nebraska defense on the road. To get into the X's and O's, and I'll start with Bryce Underwood a little bit here. Which coach is able to adjust from the early season challenges? Going on the road to Nebraska, there was clear communication issues. Underwood was not on the same page with his receivers in the RPOs against Oklahoma. Exactly.
Right? Yep. Okay.
He was not on the same page as his receivers in the RPOs or his running backs in the RPOs. The offensive line was not on the same page in terms of being able to identify their blocking schemes and pressure packages. And now you add in the challenge of Nebraska playing a 3-3-5 defense. The big challenge playing the 3-3-5 defense is identifying bodies, because there's just a bunch of, it's a muddy picture. Who's coming, who isn't, who should we account for, who not, and everybody has to work as one, otherwise there's going to be free runners. It's even more challenging on the road. And Michigan's going to be without Giovanni El Hadi, their veteran leader. He's their best offensive lineman at left guard, in my opinion. He would be a key piece in terms of identifying Nebraska's front, but they're going to have to do it without him. So What strides has Bryce taken since the Oklahoma game to be mentally prepared, to be on the same page, to attack Nebraska's defense? The positive for Michigan, Nebraska's rush defense has struggled this year. They've been giving up a ton of yards on the ground. If Nebraska can't stop the run, and if Michigan is able to successfully run the ball, especially with Underwood running the ball,
right,
I would lean towards saying Michigan should have a successful day. So they have to find a way to stop Michigan's run game and have to slow down Underwood running the ball.
It really is as simple with Michigan as when they run the ball well, they win. 49 straight games where they've rushed for 200 or more yards, they've won the game.
Very telling.
Right.
Seriously.
It's staggering. I'm with you on it's such a huge game for Nebraska just to prove to themselves and to prove to the world, hey, we can do this. We can beat a ranked team. Trying to start 4-0, haven't done that in nearly a decade. I mean, all of these things here, it just perfectly aligns for them. 4 straight home games. Well, I guess you had the neutral site game. So the 4 straight non-road games to start the season for them. They got that win over Cincinnati. They handled their last 2 opponents exactly the way they're supposed to. And now you head into this game feeling really good about yourself.
Yeah, and you mentioned the chance to start 4-0 for the first time in nearly a decade. Like, there's all these little data points, which is Nebraska can't win 1-score games. Oh, well, they've won their last 2 1-score games. Can't get to a bowl game, can't win a bowl game, start 3-0. So there's this slow building momentum, and that's construction. Matt Rule said we're going to do it the right way. We're not going to rush anything. True construction, it takes time, and this will be the indicator of where they're at. And Dylan Raiola, this is why they brought him into town. That was a program-defining moment to bring in a 5-star with his level of talent. And when we talked to him, Matt Rule at the camp tour this year, he's giving the keys to Raiola and the players to say, this is your game, your opportunity, the ultimate litmus test for Raiola against a tough Michigan defense.
It is a prove-it game for him. It's a little bit of a prove-it game for Matt Rule. I mean, we talk a lot about James Franklin and the record against ranked opponents. Matt Rule's 2-22 in his career against ranked opponents. So can you get a win like this? Can you start to create that belief for Nebraska? Because if you do get it, the schedule is very cooperative here going forward, particularly in October. Saturday, we have one of college football's great rivalries covered from every angle. Starts with Big Ten Tailgate live from Eugene. Then Countdown to Kickoff takes you inside Autzen before the 6th-ranked Ducks battle Oregon State. Coverage begins at 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. And we are joined now by Fox Sports lead game analyst Joel Klatt, breaking down the Big Ten as he does with us every week. And Joel, you were here in the Chicago area last week. We were talking in our installment that we did a week ago about Oregon perhaps being the best team in the country. You got a chance to see them in person on the lakefront there against Northwestern. What did you take from watching the Ducks?
They're an elite team with one major flaw that has to be fixed. I think that they are ready to compete for and possibly win a national championship, save for the fact that they've got to stop the run better. And I think that they know it. I know that they know it. And that's why Dan Lanning was so upset. If you saw the post-game interview with Jenny Taft, he was salty. And that's why they gave up, 178 yards, but it was more than that, because if you take away the sacks and the weird fumble that happened with Preston Stone that took away a bunch of yards, Northwestern really ran the ball for over 200 yards against Oregon and controlled the game at times. And outside of a couple of mistakes, whether it was penalties or turnovers, Northwestern was executing the blueprint to go out there and upset the Ducks. So I really like Oregon everywhere else. I'm a huge believer in Dante Moore. Rev, I think he's spectacular. I think their stable of running backs might be as deep, clearly, as anybody in the country, and very talented. They're great on the outside. I like their offensive line. They just have to stop the run a lot better. And if they don't, they won't win the national championship if they played defensively like they did against Northwestern. Penn State will take advantage of that. Others will take advantage of that. So that has to get cleaned up.
And based on what you have seen to this point, how would you rank the top of the Big Ten? Where do they fit in, and how do you see the top of the league?
That's a great question. The class is Ohio State at this point. I think that we would all probably agree, even with a couple of those interceptions. By the way, the score against Ohio is not indicative of the game. They outgained them by, 390, almost 400 yards in that game. A couple of mistakes prevent points from going up. So Ohio State would be number one. I still think Oregon is going to be number two for me because the elements are there. The run defense did surprise me a little bit. I've got Penn State at 3, and clearly they haven't played a lot of people, so that's a fishy ranking from my standpoint. It could be a lot higher. We'll see when they face Oregon. I have Michigan number 4, Rev. The way they fixed themselves going from OU to Central Michigan, granted a lesser opponent, but the change in style, taking the bubble wrap off of Bryce Underwood, that'll pay dividends. And Nebraska better watch out because Nebraska doesn't stop the run very well. Cincinnati ran it for 200 yards on them. And like this team will test you in your run defense. So I've got Michigan 4. Illinois, Indiana is kind of a tandem right there at 5. And that's why I can't wait for this week's game because then we get to see, okay, which one of these programs is better this year moving forward. And then don't forget, guys, about USC and Washington. They would be right there as well. Jaden Maiava has been terrific. He's been one of the better quarterbacks in the entire country. Their defense is decent. USC is going to be salty, and nobody's talking about Washington. And I guarantee you they beat somebody, and we're going to be like, whoa, like what's going on with Washington? They've got the second longest home win streak in the country, only to Georgia. They get a couple of their really important big games against better opponents in their home stadium. Won't shock me if they're in those games late.
Yeah, they've been phenomenal. We talk about them here, but I agree with you. Nationally, people aren't talking about them a whole lot.
Yeah. I have to forget who, when I go on other shows and say Washington, and they're like, wait, really? Like Washington? And I'm like, yeah, Washington's pretty good.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do here. So if we weren't talking about it, we'd be committing malpractice. We're also talking a lot about that Illinois-Indiana game, and you were saying you're having a hard time separating them right now. As you start to get ready for this game, what stands out to you and what are the biggest things you'll be watching?
So usually when you get teams that are this close, and I do think that they're very close, I look at experience and I look at quarterback play, and that tips me towards Illinois. Now, it's fascinating, and I know you probably don't talk a lot about lines and gambling, and obviously I don't gamble or bet, but when I saw 5.5 Indiana, I know that they're at home, but I was like, whoa. That was surprising to me. And I have to remember and remind myself, Vegas has really disliked Illinois going back to the summer. Wasn't their over or under set at like 7.5 with all of that returning, all the games that they won last year, all the returning contributors that they have, including their quarterback. I think the game is going to be won or lost by quarterback play late in the game. I believe it's going to be close. I think that Illinois' defense is very good, and they're uniquely built to kind of slow down what Indiana likes to do. Indiana loves that RPO offense, run-pass option offense. But in order for that offense to be effective, you've got to create conflict with the defender. And Rev, when you're getting man coverage from the defense, there's no conflict for that defender. He's just defending his man. So unless you can run it really well, which Indiana has for 300 yards per game almost.
Yep, over 300 every game. Yep.
And so if Illinois can slow down the run game, they're uniquely suited from a coverage perspective to make life difficult on Indiana and their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. I like Illinois in this game. I think there's something about what Brett Bielema has built, the way Altmaier is playing. He reminds me a lot of Rocco Beck at Iowa State. Like, just get him to the fourth quarter, and he can get it done.
You were talking a little bit about Michigan's quarterback, Bryce Underwood, and the fact that they allowed him to run quite a bit more. I mean, not a little bit more, but a lot more. I mean, he had negative rushing yards on the season going into that game against Central Michigan. He ended up having the best running game for a Michigan quarterback since Devin Gardner a dozen years before. What about that matchup?
Devin's going to find that clip, and he's going to put it on loop. Oh, I know it. I'm going to send this to Devin. He's going to be so excited.
Our colleague, I should say, yes.
That's right.
So what about this game against Nebraska? You were talking about whether or not the Huskers are tough enough in run defense. How do you see these two matching up?
So as far as the bubble wrap I was talking about, Bryce Underwood had 2 non-sack rushes in the first 2 games. And then against Central Michigan, And to a man, and you saw it even in interviews and the way that they talked about it, whether it was Biff or Coach Moore, and they said, like, okay, we're not going to do that again. We're not going to go out there and put handcuffs on our best player from a restraint perspective just to play a style that we think could win because of what the opponent might do. And they said, nope. Our best players are going to be our best players, and that's what we saw against Central Michigan. So 2 non-sack rushes for Bryce Underwood in the first couple of games, 9 rushes last week. Now, 6 of them were scrambles, so it's not like they were opening up some sort of dynamic quarterback running system. That's not what they were doing, but it is indicative of how they coached him during the week, telling him, hey, you don't have to just throw it away. If it's there, take it. Go ahead. Be an athlete. Create. Be a threat on the outside. Of those 9 rushes, 6 went for first down, 2 were touchdowns. That puts an insane amount of pressure on a defense, and it puts the defense in conflict, like I was explaining earlier in that Illinois-Indiana discussion. When you couple that with the fact that they are a very good running team, even with an offensive line that has been banged up, and we'll see what happens at that guard position this week going into Nebraska. Justice Haynes has run for 100 yards in each one of the 3 games. Now you've got Underwood. How does the passing game come along? Can they get the tight ends going? Can they get Klein healthy? All of these different things. Michigan, if they want to, can be a dynamic offense. You're not a dynamic offense unless you're not a dynamic offense. How am I trying to say this? You don't score 63 points unless you're a dynamic offense. That's what I was trying to say right here. Been talking a lot today, but Rev, bear with me on this one. Speaking of Nebraska, I really love what's going on. They're improved everywhere on their team except for one area, run defense. They were top 10 in the country last year, 8th in the country in run defense. Hutmaker in there, those guys, those were really good defensive tackles, tough to move and tough to run the ball against. They're 75th, 6th in the country right now in rush defense. That will be tested. Michigan will come out and test them early. Can you stop us? Because if they don't, Michigan will take the crowd right out of the game. They'll go on long drives. They'll hold the ball and do what Michigan can do, running the football.
How important do you think this game is to Nebraska? I mean, they've lost 27 in a row to ranked teams. It's a streak that goes
since
back
2016.
It's crazy, right? I mean, it's just, if you would have said that to us in 2016, we would have said you're absolutely out of your mind. And then you look at their schedule, Joel, and as of now, they don't have another ranked team on the schedule until November. So, like, if you win this game, I feel like we have this conversation, we get premature, we get excited about Nebraska, and then it doesn't materialize. Yeah. But you think about, like, how the hype could build around this team. How do you see this game in terms of level of importance for them?
So can I use different words? Because I think it produces different answers.
Sure.
If you ask me who is the game more important for, it's Michigan. You can't have 2 losses at this point, one of them being Nebraska on the road. So it's a more important game for Michigan. But the enormity of the game could be bigger for Nebraska because of what it could mean for the trajectory of their program, which is what I think you're kind of leading me into. Yes. Is like, if you can get the ranked win, if you can prove that you can play on that level and level up in the Big Ten and become something that we all hoped and thought you could become when Matt Rule was hired as the head coach. The enormity of a win would be bigger for Nebraska. But the game in and of itself for this year is much more important for Michigan, because if they lose this game, I don't know, man. Like, it starts to get into we think we're better. Are we better? You can't lose to Nebraska. You can't allow a team and a program to level up at your expense if you're the Michigan Wolverines. You're only, 18 months removed from a national championship. So it's imperative that they go out there and win the game. The urgency is with Michigan. Even if Nebraska loses this game, I hate to say this, it's like, okay, well, we circle the wagons and then we try again. Because, again, their schedule is going to allow them, even if they were to lose this game, to continue and go on and have a potentially successful season. They could still get to 9, 8, 9 wins, which I think people would accept as progress at Nebraska. So importance and enormity, 2 different things here in this discussion.
It's fun when you're in conference play, and I know you will be in Champaign next week for USC Illinois, so you guys will get back to the Big Ten. But big noon this week, Salt Lake City, Texas Tech, and Utah. Enjoy that game. We always love talking to you, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Joel.
Yeah, appreciate your time, man. Thanks for having me.
Back to football, and Oregon's offense humming along early on this year. Top dozen in the nation in every category you see here. This despite the fact they returned just one starter from last season on that side of the ball, offensive lineman Iapani Laloulu, the Ducks' mainstay up front, chatting with our Ashley Adamson.
Pancho, it's great to be with you again. Thanks so much for making the time, and congrats on the 3-0 start. We're obviously excited to have our entire crew on site this weekend for the game and for Big Ten Tailgate. Last time you and I talked, it was fall camp. So I just got to start with, what's something that you've learned about this Oregon offense since then?
One thing that I really learned with this team, honestly, and like you said, the Oregon offense, that how much bond and like that connection part. We really talk about connection being like the pinnacle and like the foundation of our DNA traits. Like just seeing how the guys can bond, with a lot of new keys to the game, keys to our team. Just how fast we're able to bond, and the trust that we have in the guys. So just seeing that unfold is awesome.
It's been amazing to watch because you were the only full-time returning starter on offense. So I think a lot of people wondered, like, how is this going to gel together? And it's gone well so far. You guys have the third highest scoring offense in the country. If I was going to ask you your favorite play so far this season, you have a lot to choose from, but what would you go with?
My favorite play is against Oklahoma State with Noah Whittington, the second play of the game. We had like a little, counter play. Just seeing, it's crazy to see when you draw the plays and installs, and then you see it just unfold. It's like art on film. And just seeing Noah just run it down, like gash down the middle field of the field, man, it was awesome. It was beautiful.
I've always wondered, like, as a center, how much of a play do you actually get to see develop? Because once you snap it and you're locked in, like, do you actually get to see plays unfold, or you just hear the crowd and know that it's going well?
I block my guy, and then the moment, like, I can just like hear or know when the ball's out. Because, I got to make sure that Dante is clean. So I'm looking left and right, like, where's this guy? And I know, like, I can just hear sometimes when the ball's out, or I can see the ball just, like, go over my head. And I'm like, well, I see the ball, and I'm like, wow.
There were a lot of those wow moments against Oklahoma State, no doubt about it. That was an unbelievable game to watch, especially if you were an Oregon fan. I got to ask you about the uniforms. Uniforms are always a big deal at Oregon, right? And the Shoe Duck uniforms this week are even more special. 2 years in the making, a tribute to Phil Knight. I know that some players even had some input on the design. So tell me about, how these kind of came together, or just any insight on these unbelievable uniforms.
Like you said, this uniform, it means a lot. And, we just want to give our thanks and, to Uncle Phil of how much he's poured into this university and how much he loves his Oregon Ducks football team and just Oregon in general. Being able to wear those jerseys, I wear with a lot of pride, and I take a lot of responsibility in knowing that, this is not just for us. It's more than just, Oregon. It's like for Uncle Phil.
Yeah, you guys are going to look sharp, and I know that he's going to have a smile on his face on Saturday.
I love our cleats, or our helmet. Honestly.
That was the gold. Ooh, it's good. It's going to look fast. All right, you're a man of many talents, and I know you bring so much physicality on the field, but then you've got this incredible musical gift as well. You play the ukulele, guitar, I feel like you play everything. And you have a beautiful voice too. So what is music? Oh, you do. Don't short sell yourself. I've heard it. What does music do for you? What do you get out of it?
Music, honestly, it kind of just calms me down, takes my mind off of football. Just reminiscing of how I was growing up with my family, my friends, back in Hawaii. Just getting that sense of feeling of home. I grew up, sometimes me and my boys would just do jam sessions, is what we call it. I would just go grab a uke, one or the other dude might grab a guitar. And we just jam and sing, just try to hear ourselves. We're not the best singers, but it's always awesome to hear, whenever we kind of, hit some type of harmony.
You're going to play ukulele for us on the tailgate show on Saturday. At least I've heard that I don't want to, spoil any surprises. Are you taking requests, or do you have anything? Do you have a go-to?
I got some minor songs. I got some songs like you said I grew up singing, so I'll see what I got. Bring for you.
Okay. Is Whitney Houston in that repertoire?
Oh, I don't know if I can play any Whitney Houston's. If anything, I just do karaoke at that point. That's too high for me. I'm not no Whitney Houston.
I believe in you. I believe in you, Pancho. I think you could do it if you wanted
Thank
to.
you.
Okay, last thing, we'll let you go on this. Obviously, a big game against Oregon State, your guys' rival. You're 2-0 against the Beavs. Rivalry games have changed a little bit, and this one feels differently given realignment and the timing that it's played and all the rest. But
Yeah.
what is important to you guys about this game?
At the end of the day, me, coming in from a place from Hawaii, I know how much rivalry and how much, it means when you go against your rival school. But obviously, I don't know how that feels for the Oregon people. But just since I've been here since my freshman year and just embarking that tradition and that culture of knowing that we're two elite programs in the same state going at it back to back. And my coach, Coach Walk, just hearing him the other day talking about how much this means to him, it just gives me that drive. This game in general is I'm playing for something much more bigger than just me. And my last name on my back, I'm really playing for Eugene. I'm playing for the community. Just hearing from some of my boys, my teammates, who are from Oregon, and knowing how much the tradition for this game in Oregon is big. So I just take it with a lot of pride, and I'm gonna play to my best of my ability and making sure that what I'm doing for the university, and for everybody who came through this program and all the fellow the OGs that came through too.
I mean, this game means a lot to a lot of people, but I don't think you could have said it better than you just did. I think Lanning should let you do the pregame speech on Saturday because I'm fired up. I want to go play in this thing.
Do it.
All right, Pancho, thank you so much for the time. Can't wait to hear some Whitney Houston on tailgate, and we'll be watching for you on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, it's going to be a fun scene in Eugene on Saturday. Again, we mentioned you're going to be out there, Jay, calling this game. They obviously have an enormous game looming next week against Penn State. You don't overlook a rivalry game. I'm not suggesting that they will. I guess what I'm asking you, though, is what do you feel like they need to focus on to feel like they go into that Penn State game playing their best?
Well, I mean, Joel alluded to this earlier. The big question mark is, can they stop the run? Obviously, that's going to be a big piece of Penn State's offensive game plan. Behind the offensive line, behind those two backs, they're going to want to run the ball. The issue is Oregon State not exactly great at running the ball. Oregon State's offensive line has struggled this year, but it's a rivalry game, and this is really what I'm hoping for. Oregon State's head coach, Trent Bray, it's been a frustrating start to the year. And after the loss last weekend, Trent came up to the media and he said he was really disappointed with the way his team played. He felt like they didn't strain, they didn't play with a willingness to be physical. I think the positive for Oregon State, and therefore the positive for Oregon as we're spinning it forward, is it's a rivalry game. You shouldn't need any added motivation. I'd anticipate this will be the most physical game Oregon State plays all year just because of the nature of the rivalry. It reminds me of Michigan State, which is a fist fight, a little bit of hatred. This is going to be a physical game. So there's some elements there that should help Oregon get prepared, spinning it forward against Penn State.
They have had a difficult time, Oregon State has, on defense, giving up at least 34 points in every game this year. And as you mentioned, they are more of a passing team. Malik Murphy, who obviously has been at Texas and Duke, can really throw the football nearly 300 yards per game. So it'll be a challenge perhaps for the Ducks secondary, which if you think about it, kind of defensively, that's the least experienced area of this team.
Yeah, there's some youth back there for sure. And Malik Murphy, I mean, when you listen to the press conference this week from Dan Lanning and a bunch of the Oregon Ducks, they rave about Malik Murphy. He has a big arm. One of the players called him Cam Newton. So,
he's just a big guy.
Yeah, he's a big guy. And, maybe there's some elements of quarterback run there too that could show up and prepare you. So, just having disciplined rush lanes, tackling in space. There is youth in the secondary, Dave, but the guys in the secondary that are young, the freshmen, redshirt freshmen, they're not playing young. They're playing inspired football. I think Oregon just has such a spirit about their football team that is one of the main reasons why I love watching them.
They have a ton of talent. Excited for you to get to experience this rivalry. 129th time that they have played. The only rivalry that's been played more in the FBS is Minnesota-Wisconsin.
They just secured another 6-year term there, right? They're not playing next year, but then it's 6 more years going forward that they'll play each other. So protect the rivalry.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Tonight, don't miss a women's soccer triple header as 8th-ranked Penn State takes on Nebraska. Number 4 UCLA clashes with Michigan State, and Illinois faces Oregon. Live coverage begins at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Wrapping things up here with Jake Butt. We got two more conference games to talk about this weekend. USC's off to a great start. They're into the top 25 now. They're hosting Michigan State. What intrigues you here?
I don't think there's an offense where it's looked more effortless, especially passing the ball, than what it's looked like for USC. I mean, that's to be expected with Lincoln Raiola. Jade Mayava looks great. Lincoln Riley and Jade Mayava's look great. The weapons are everywhere. And then for Michigan State, last-ranked passing defense in the Big Ten. So I expect there to be a ton of chunks. But what I'm curious, can they run it against Michigan State's defense? Will they run it? Just because you expect to be able to pass the ball, I just believe the balance is going to need to continue and will serve the Trojans well throughout the season. And then on the flip side, we know Aiden Childs is extremely dangerous, but I'm excited to see the matchup. Danton Lynn finally has the personnel across the defensive line. They look extremely disruptive. Number one in the Big Ten in sacks. Michigan State's offensive line allowing the second most sacks on the season. So can they, will they, how do they get after Aiden Childs? And can Aiden Childs continue to stay disciplined with the football, or does the pressure from the Trojans force him back into some of those mistakes?
The Michigan State offense that has been clicking more than 40 points in consecutive games. First time they've done that since 2017. But to your point, USC, Danton Lynn, man, he has done a phenomenal job with that defense that started building last year. What about the other game between Rutgers and Iowa? And something where you talk about a big change from last year would be Rutgers' offense. It was so premised on Kyle Monungai last season. He obviously moves on to the NFL, now playing here in Chicago with the Bears. And all of a sudden, they have turned into a dynamic passing offense. I think the question is, how dynamic will they be against an airtight defense from Iowa?
That is the exact question, Dave, and that's what we're going to learn this weekend. Rutgers is 3-0. This is a huge opportunity for Shiano and huge opportunity for Callie McManus. Third in the Big Ten in passing yards, over 800 yards on the season. Looks great with KJ Duff, Ian Strong, DT Sheffield. But Iowa's passing defense with Phil Parker, it's always the case. Number 4 ranked passing defense in the Big Ten. They do not give you easy windows. They play extremely disciplined. So I would say this is going to be an extremely revealing week for Callie McManus and for Iowa's defense. They have not gotten any interceptions on the season. It sounds like the players are challenging one another. What gives this week? Does Callie McManus continue to take care of the football and have success, or does Iowa's passing defense win the day?
No, it's pretty amazing. I mean, Iowa, which is so premised on interceptions, they have the most interceptions in the country over the last 10 years, as you say, yet to get one. They've only forced one turnover overall as a team on the year. So we'll see. It'll be a good test because Rutgers is going to be fired up. It'll be a tremendous atmosphere. Speaking of great atmospheres, have fun in Eugene. I'll see you on Saturday.